How Battler Stole Witchmas by Anonymous. Every witch down in Witchville liked Witchmas a lot, but Battler, who lived on Rockenjima, did not. Battler hated witches the whole Witchmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be, perhaps, that his cross was too tight. Or maybe his hair was to him too bird-like. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his bombs were 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his bombs or his cross, he stood there Witchmas Eve like a boss, staring out from the guest-house with a sour, battler frown at the magically lighted windows in their town. For he knew every witch down in Witchville would say that magic was real and Umineko's here to stay. And they're hanging up corpses, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Witchmas. It's practically here. Then he growled, with his battler fingers nervously drumming. I must find a way to stop Witchmas from coming. For tomorrow he knew all those normal girls and boys would wake up bright and early. The first twilight would begin, and then, oh, the noise, they'd start such a din. That's one thing he hated, the victims started a din. And then the goats, young and old, would sit down to a feast. And they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast. They'd feast on witch jelly, and roast witches' teats, which was something Battler couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every witch down in Witchville, the tall and the small, would stand close together, with very small spaces. They'd stand hand in hand, and they'd start making troll faces. They'd troll, and they'd troll, and they'd troll. And the more Battler thought of a witchy troll face, the more Battler thought, I fucking hate that place. Why, for X number of months I've put up with it now. I must stop this Witchmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. Battler got a perfecto awful idea. I know just what to do, Battler laughed in his throat, and he made himself a badass sorcerer's cloak. And he chuckled and clucked, what an awesome disguise. With this sorcerer's cloak, I'll fool those guys. All I need is a staff. Battler looked around, but since staves are scarce, there were none to be found. Did that stop Battler? No. Battler simply said, if I can't find a staff, I'll make one instead. So he found his favorite hat stand. Then he took out a knife, and he carved it with runes his inanimate wife. Then he hopped on the train and followed its tracks through the village of witches, but he couldn't relax. Battler yelled, faster, faster. The train roared to life, screeching along the rails towards the destination of his strife. All their windows were purple. Quiet snow filled the air. All the witches were dreaming about killing without care. When he came to the first little house on the square. This is stop number 1, the endless sorcerer hissed, and he climbed to the roof, rigid waifu in his fist. Then he leapt to the balcony. His legs hurt like a bitch, but he had to do it because he wasn't a witch. His hat stand got stuck for a moment or two. He turned it forwards, and then he got through the window and took sight of the candies and shit. So now that I'm here, let's get rid of it. So he pilfered those candies and stole all the treats. He took all their tea. He took their roast teats. He cleaned out their household of Witchmasy stuff, and that bastard finally decided it was enough. So he climbed to the balcony, but he got stuck again. The incompetent boy wailed, "Why'd I bring my stickly friend?" So Battler took his hat stand and started to shove, when he heard a small sound that lacked a mother's love. He turned around fast, and he saw a small witch, Maria Ushiromiya, an annoying little bitch. Battler had been caught by a non-witch's daughter, and as the ambient music began to play Golden Slaughter, she stared at Battler and said, "Oh, Battler, why? Why are you ruining Witchmas? Why?" And you know, incompetent Battler wasn't so slick, so he told her his opinion, and he did it real quick. "Why, Maria-chan," the fake sorcerer said, "witches don't exist. They're all in your head. So I'm taking all of your magic crap out of here. So get some counseling, and I'll eat you in 10 years. And Maria just sulked while he patted her head, and he found her a shrink and sent her to bed. And when little Maria went back to bed, he picked up his waifu and left via the shed. Then the last thing he took was the witch's portrait, but he didn't know what the hell he'd do with it, and besides, through the opening it wouldn't fit, so he left it behind on the floor of that house, with his dirty footprints all over it, the louse. Then he did the same thing to every other witch house, stealing snacks while he carried his carved wooden spouse. It was 1:15. All the witches all insane, all the witches all asleep when he hopped on his train, with their Witchmas gifts and treats, their candies, their porcelain dolls, their roast witches' teats. 2 kilometers of track, beneath Rocken Isle, he rode with his load and a wicked battler smile. "Those witches are bitches," he was battlerishly humming. "They'll find out now that no Witchmas is coming. They're just waking up, I know what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two, then the witches down in Witchville will scream, 'Ooh, ooh.' That's a noise," grinned Battler, "that I simply must hear." So he stopped the train and put a hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound coming all the way back from Witchville, and it was growing louder and fast. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so. But it was, and it was scary. He looked back at Witchville. Battler popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every witch town in Witchville, the tall and the small, was trolling, without any reason at all. He hadn't stopped Witchmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And Battler, looking back at this mess, bellowed, "It's useless. It's all useless. It came without candies. It came without treats. It came without magic, Loldine, or teats." And he argued for 3 hours, till his arguer was sore. Then Battler thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Witchmas, he thought, isn't all about gore. Maybe Witchmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Witchville they say that Battler's small bombs grew 9 sizes that day. And the minute his bombs made his pants feel tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the candies and the food and the teats. And he himself carved the roast. Dad? The end.